Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
So how many grandchildren?
I have 2, 8 and 6. 8-year-old
So,
granddaughter and 6-year-old grandson.
So probably my philosophy is your children probably didn't try because normally children want to be better like the parents, right? And they saw they could not.
My kids did not compete with me.
No, they could not. So they just
shut off, shut down.
So now they are like low. So their kids see that they can be better than their parents, right? So do you see any incentive in the grandchildren that they?
There is an incentive. To the extent that, and I spend very limited time with my grandkids, but they know that Grandpa Peña is a rock star. They know because they shouldn't, but they see me on YouTube, and they see me, and to the extent they use bad words, it's not because their parents use bad words. It's because they see me, and they know that I've done a lot of spectacular things. So they do have a chance to be better. But the kids today, and they're only 8 and 6, so I can't project. But and they go to good schools. They're not going to as good a schools as their parents went to, because my children went to the best schools on the planet. I mean, the most expensive, schools on the planet, which isn't necessarily the best schools. Okay, after 25 years of putting them through those schools, but for the most part, they're better than the regular public schools. And education in the last 25, 30, 35 years has gone down the toilet. It's not what it used to be, and it's certainly not what it should be. And that's why Sally and I are very much involved in gifting money to schools. And we in Mangalore, we gave money to schools, and I remember I might have mentioned it. I wanted to see if they were really getting the money, so we went out to Mangalore, and the outskirts, and poverty like the Gaza-Israeli war right now. That's the kind of poverty you'd see. And so we brought 200 computers. We didn't believe that nobody had a computer. We didn't believe it. I want to see it with these eyes. God Almighty! After we gave them clothes and food and all kinds of other crap, because I didn't know in a reasonably advanced country like India, or at least that's what they advertised, that anybody could be that fucking poor. Well, I was fucking wrong, and they were that poor, and so we gave them a lot of money, and I'm happy. Although our senior staff, half of them were from Mangalore and half from Bangalore. And I don't know, dating back a million years maybe, the Bangalore guys, Bangalore said that Mangalore was cheats, and Mangalore said that the Bangalore were cheats. I don't know who. Yeah. I don't know who the bigger cheats. So our senior staff from Bangalore didn't like us giving so much money to Bangalore, but we did anyway. But I mean, there's still places. If Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Zuckerfucker wanted to end poverty in the African continent, they could do it in a week. Maximum a month. They don't. Yeah. Because they have gazillions.
Why not?
Well, whatever reason they don't, it's the wrong reason. I can't put words in their mouth, although I know some of the guys. But most of the guys are interested in building their legacy before they die. That's why Elon doesn't say fuck shit in his interviews, although he said go fuck yourself. But all those guys talk that way. All of them. The president, the prime minister, they all talk that way. But now it's not vogue or acceptable to talk that way. And I've been in countless meetings where, and they look to the guy taking notes, make sure that's cut out. Now, in the meeting, when I'm there, I never say to cut out what I say. And my problem and my challenge has been all my life, they shoot the messenger before they listen to the message. Now, I'm not suggesting you get as aggressive as myself. All I'm saying is you take on some alpha characteristics and your net worth will grow by 5 times overnight. Overnight. But for a lot of you, it's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. For me, it's just like I took a piss. I mean, it's no big deal for me. And I've been like this since I'm a little boy. And of course, that's why I got in a lot of trouble. And I got, beat and sent to the principal's office twice before lunch. And but Sally was, when we were at the principal's Reseda High, where I went to, and she says, and she's looking at Sally, not me, we didn't know how to treat gifted kids then. Nobody ever called me gifted. They called me a shit disturber, a fucking delinquent, and they beat me. But I am gifted. I'm smart as shit. I'm smart as shit. But brains didn't get me here. Taking risks and pulling the trigger got me here. I would have been better off with 100 IQ instead of 140. Now, some of you are, I'm being sarcastic now, some of you are aspiring to get it up to 80. I've got rich kids that have 80 IQs. I'm making a little joke here, mostly Dutch. That's not true, but it sounds better for a joke. Mostly Dutch.
With 80 IQ.
Yeah, no, it's not true. But yeah, but my success in the Netherlands was mostly up to 2 people, Vinica and Mr. Heineken. For whatever reason, he liked me. He reminded me of him when he was a kid.
Who is Vinica?
Vinica ran my office in the Netherlands for 25 years, and she and her husband were the ones that introduced me to Mr. Heineken. Mr. Heineken. And I thought it was a pipe dream, but it worked out. If you don't ask, you don't get. And when he called Erasmus and University of Amsterdam and Nairobi, and he said he wanted me to teach there, all of a sudden I was teaching there. I didn't fill out any fucking papers. I didn't take any tests. And the Dutch kids are smart. They're smart. But this is 25 years ago. They complained that the country was getting weak. And they were telling the truth. They were, telling the truth. The kids need leadership. And they don't need stern discipline so much, but they need leadership. And they're looking for that leadership. A lot of smart kids. And so I feel blessed that I had an opportunity to teach a bunch of them.
So earlier this week, you discussed slipping back into our default states in the past. When you've slipped into your default state, what were some things that you did to get back into the state that wasn't your default, and what do you recommend to us?
Well, I mean, when you leave the gates here, whenever you leave, either early in the morning or later tomorrow, there's going to be a realization that, as a couple of webinars have said, I'm not there. I'm not here protecting you now, but I am answering your questions no matter how stupid they are. And some of you feel more comfortable asking me questions, but who are you going to ask when you get out? Okay? You will be reticent. I've already told you that sharing that shit with your significant other, a spouse, is not such a good idea. And you're going to be, shell-shocked and default's a motherfucker. And some of you have stronger relationships with your family, your siblings, etc. I'm here to tell you that doesn't work. I'm not telling you not to love your brothers and sisters and mother. It just doesn't work. Because by the time you explain to them what your plan is, they're going to think you're crazy. Now, some of you in this room have what I would call decent money-making professions. And for you, implicit in you going forward with the QLA model is you're either going to spend less time on that money-making profession that you have or no time. And your parents, your siblings, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, instantly will see through that. And they're going to be selfishly, well, how are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And they will be not, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy that they're not supportive. They're not supportive on purpose because you're not going to sell it with enthusiasm. Almost everybody in this room compared to me is a cunt. So how are you going to convince these people that this is the right career life move for you? The one thing that Peter did well, Erasty, the Hungarian Forrest Gump, is that he drew the line in the sand. You're with me or you're out the door. And you've heard several of the kids. And that's a harsh thing to tell somebody. At that time, he was married 14 years, had one kid, okay? And she had supported the little shit for 14 years, selling fucking cookies at malls. Now he walks in the fucking door like he thinks he's James Bond. And, I mean, just think of it from their point of view. One of the things that the Viking bitch said, your wife didn't sign on, or your significant other didn't sign on for you to be James Bond. And there's a lot of truth in that. But you still have to act if there's no limits to your abilities. You still got to push forward. My first wife was extremely supportive. And then one day she decided, are you going to quit? Are you going to quit? When's enough's enough? And she said, I want a divorce. I'm paraphrasing it. But to say that I was shocked, it's an understatement of Quran proportions. I'm slappy, just like you. I'm slappy, happy, everything's perfect. I'm making tons of money. Okay. But your family shouldn't suffer, so I found it easier to move away from them. You'll do whatever you decide to do. But it's easier to do it, or at least I found it easier to do it if I didn't have to see him every day. And I was just, doing all the meetings like a Nelly. A Nelly system is a derivative of my system, and the Carlines system is a derivative of a Nelly system, and because, they could relate, although he's a black guy from South Africa, and the Carlines are Scots from Dundee, and as your husband related and you're friendly with the Carlines. And I would pick and choose carefully, very carefully, who you decide to be those 5 people that you spend the most time with. Because that shit rubs off. I mean, it rubs off. And you heard that Sally and I didn't allow our mothers to associate with our kids for 7 and 8 years respectively. Because our moms, though they loved us and they wanted to be around their grandkids, yada, yada, they were toxic because they had all the wrong values. Their values, have more kids, go to church on Sunday. I'm not saying that's wrong, but there's more to life than having more kids and going to church on Sunday. Other questions?
Mr. Peña, what's the strangest thing you've seen somebody do in public?
The strangest thing in public, the greatest act of self-sabotage that I've ever seen has been related to, you may have 45, 50, 60, 70 acquisitions. You're in the process of exiting to a strategic or a private equity, whatever. And then you're married. You've been somehow been able to keep your marriage together. you got 3 or 4 or 5 kids, and you go out and do something bizarre, like get involved with a 9-year-old or some bullshit like that. And so I've seen people just self-sabotaging activities. Everybody in this room has been, and myself included, has been involved in self-sabotaging activities, but they're subtle. They're not, you don't put a bullet in your foot. You don't knowingly cut your head of your dick off. But I mean, there, some of the partnerships, some of you have alluded to, business relationships we have. And I told you when I was with you, you had to be brain dead to do that. There is no quick answer. Just as there's no quick answer to QLA, there's no secret sauce, but you've gone off and done a deal with somebody someplace. I told you 2 or 3 days ago, there are going to be people on you like stink on shit that are going to offer you, yes dear, that are going to offer you some gilt-edged panacea to funding. But we don't need funding. What we need is motivated sellers. What we need is Toyota or Boeing or British Air or Siemens to open up their archives and let you buy shit that they've already almost written off to zero, that they don't want on the balance sheet next year. Now, to the best of my knowledge, nobody else is teaching that. Okay? And I know it because I've dealt with and been part of those infrastructures for 40 years. And when I tell you as CFO of a big company, $20 billion company, I don't want those motherfucking assets to be on my balance sheet next year. Implicit in what I'm saying is, if you don't get it done, you're fucking fired. That's the gilt-edged panacea. That's the assets. But, as Peter Harasti said, he was all excited when a big partner of a law firm talked to him. He was excited when a big partner of an accounting firm talked to him. But those guys, put their pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. But when you go to the clubs you can't afford, when you go to the restaurants you can't afford, one of the things I would highly recommend, although it's extremely expensive, take a trip in the Orient Express. I mean, nobody's poor on that fucking train. I mean, nobody. And when Sally and I were there, although I didn't like it, the young rich kids give me their seat. I still don't like that. But Sally and I want to go on another Orient Express. And there's a lot of things. I tell you to subscribe to Rappaport, subscribe to the Platinum, whatever the fuck the group is. And there's, wealthy people that can make a difference in your life. As opposed to, I say, I was teasing, that the only buddy that's going to call you on New Year's Eve is your cousin to bail him out of jail for drunk driving. But I've had 50, 60, 70 deals, like the option I took public, Neom. But I'm always turning over rocks. I'm always kissing frogs. I'm always, and one of the reasons that I meet people, and I have for the last 10 or 15 years, when I'm traveling, because you never know. You never know. And I'm, often asked why, and I've been saying it, I have no hidden agenda. I don't charge any money for it, although I'm phasing myself out of that too. And now I want to meet, more mentees in the last whatever I have. But you can never have too much knowledge. You can never have too much exposure. And all that has led to, even though I'm not trying to make money anymore, as I said during the class, which you guys kind of chuckled, I make it by accident now. Now, see, you still want to make it on purpose. God bless you. But when you've done all these things for decades, you make it by accident. And that's where I am in my career. Any other last questions from anybody?
Because nobody's saying that, thank you for hosting us.
Thank you very much for your wisdom. Thank you very much for this beautiful place. And it's a great honor to be here.
Thank you very much. Now, the theory is, whether it's true, I can't prove it. Napoleon stood under that chandelier a couple hundred years ago, because that's where we bought it. Now, I can't prove that, but I kind of fantasize that it's true. And he had problems. He died young. He tried to invade Russia during the winter, as did Hitler, and he failed. Okay, and my dad stood under this right there, about there, with my arm around him, and he said, "Just tell me it's not drugs, Dad. I mean, is my wealth built from drugs?" I said, "No, Dad, it's not. It's kind of like drugs. It's oil and gas. It's addictive." And and he only stayed a couple of days, and then he went home. But this is a place that's a testament to yesterday's dreams or today's realities. And this all happened rather quickly. And I'm still here, much to the chagrin to my neighbors. And I'm going to be the local representative in Parliament in Westminster in a few months. Even though they gerrymandered and they switched to fucking voting. And people tell me it's an accident. I don't believe that. You know, I don't believe that now I'm in a section of Angus that has a huge majority for SNP. So I'm going to run 500 meters to that side in the district that has just a small majority. But kids, if you're dying and you did your homework, call Kim. If you're dying and you didn't do your homework, don't bother. Don't bother. But I still enjoy the seminars. But 2 or 3 of you asked me, "Don't you get tired of the same questions over and over?" I'd be a lying old bastard if I told you I didn't. But every group, and I continue to answer the questions as long as they ask them. Now, a few of you I'm going to see tomorrow morning. I'm going to sleep in. And who's leaving the first tomorrow? What time, ungodly hour? I don't understand that, but the Dutch can't leave. No. Well, what? The Dutch in Colombia, they can. Okay, well, don't stay. Just make. I expect all of you out of here by 10 in the morning. So I don't give a fuck if you can't leave as a Dutchman. Yeah. Yeah, and we got Mr. LOI here, which I'm sure I'm not the only one that knew that he was full of shit. But, okay, we'll see you guys, okay? Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.